Hi, good morning, everyone. We'll wait a few minutes while some other folks join. All right, welcome to another Sunday Town Hall. Thank you for being here. We have a few announcements before we get started. The first one is going to be about becoming a member. If you haven't joined, please consider it. As Menlo likes to say, membership has its advantages. And in addition to that, we have a couple of events coming up. We have our Meta residential retreat that's coming up in March 17th through 22nd at Malibu. Should be really nice. And then we also have our masterclass, Session 7, Tonglen Mutual Reciprocity of Sending and Receiving, and that is on March 9th. And today we have Kathleen, and I will turn it over to her.
Hi, good morning, or at least it's morning here on the East Coast. It's also quite cold. So I'm Suzanne, and I guess I wear one of those labels that says, hey, I hang out with Lama Surya and his senior students, and am supported and folded in their love and teachings. And it is my great pleasure, because that's what arises for me. It's like this joy piece to share sort of part of my practice with all of you this morning. And I'm a lawyer by training, so there's my like disclosure. And some lawyers like to be kind of scripted and they think it all out, and then there are others of us who are less scripted. In that sense, I love hanging out with Lama. There's a lot of spontaneity and sometimes laughter that kind of comes with that. Well, let's just see what arises in this moment, and what opens up and what you all seem to call for. And so it's a journey, and for me, it's quite a joyful journey. So it is common for me once a month to share my practice at my local public library, and in that setting, I generally set aside all my beloved Tibetan bling, all my beautiful. I have rupas and tankas, and I love all my Tibetan chanting, and I love my Pali and my Sanskrit words, and I'm learning some of the Tibetan. Now I'm hanging out with Lama and friends. But because I'm usually in a public library when I'm sharing, I actually use a lot of art and poetry as my invitation and expression of my meditation practice. And so that's part of what you're going to get today. So we're going to enjoy some Mary Oliver poetry. When I was leading at the library about 2 weeks ago, we have this amazing exhibit of photography in the room in which we meditate. Well, that was wonderful to kind of weave that into our awareness practice. And so I do like to use the other arts as a way to find that entry point in, because we all need to find our path in and own it. And I'm going to fix my view here, so hang on a second, because I don't want to do two things at once. All right, you are all now in gallery view, which is way better for me, because I just love to see you all. I'm getting waves, so I'm waving back, which of course you'll know if you put it on gallery view. So this is kind of our journey this morning, and let me Let me start with a little Mary Oliver. And we're going to just kind of fold her poetry a little bit in through our practice today. So this is the loon. Not quite 4 a.m. when the rapture of being alive strikes me from sleep, and I rise from the comfortable bed and go to another room where my books are lined up in the neat and colorful rows. How magical they are. I choose one and open it. Soon I have wandered in over the waves of the words to the temple of thought. And then I hear outside, over the actual waves, the small, perfect voice of the loon. He is also awake, and with his heavy head uplifted, he calls out to the fading moon, to the pink flush swelling in the east, that soon will become the long, reasonable day. Inside the house, it is still dark, except for the pool of lamplight in which I am sitting. I do not close the book. Neither, for a long while, do I read on. So a lot of you look very familiar to me, your faces. And so you know this. You know how close it is. And Lama talks about that all the time. That maybe it's the call of the loon. It's that sudden invitation to be present. Really present. And it's so close. And it happens all the time if you're listening for that invitation. And maybe it's that signal from nature, or maybe it's the poem you read and all of a sudden it invites you to be still and really aware. But in this really relaxed and natural way. How beautiful. And how easy, right? Right? If we stop working so hard. You know, I often think of this kind of flow of these practice opportunities like we have this morning. It's kind of like a dance, right? So we're moving through, and I am not a professional dancer, but I've had a little bit of training, and I have a daughter who for a while was a professional dancer. And if you watch some good choreography, you'll see there are like these rest and recovery moments. And I kind of think that this is kind of like that gathering that we do together and these kind of formal times we set aside for ourselves to kind of sit, right? It's kind of like being in the practice hall sometimes. But really, it's about taking everything we're kind of nourishing in this space together and letting it infuse every moment of our lives. Like the boundaries between our sitting practice, our awareness practice, and this time, there aren't any. And that's where I think nature helps us, the little bit of poetry helps us, a piece of art helps us. Sometimes the grandchild or child that's 2 really helps us. It's so beautiful because it's right there. And so I know a number of you probably for your meals or in the morning, at breakfast, or I've watched at least some of you on retreat really take that moment over the bowl, right? So here's another Mary Oliver poem to kind of give us that luscious sense of that awareness practice that's beyond just sitting here on my case, it's on my cushion, one of my favorite ones. It's called Rice. It grew in the black mud. It grew under the tiger's orange paws. Its stems thinner than candles and as straight. Its leaves like the feathers of egrets, but green. The grains crusting, wanting to burst. Oh, blood of the tiger. I don't want you just to sit down at the table. I don't want you just to eat and be content. I want you to walk out into the fields where the water is shining and the rice has risen. I want you to stand there far from the white tablecloth. I want you to fill your hands with the mud like a blessing. So that's often how I start my day with my muesli, and I put in this and that, my pumpkin seeds or whatever I decide to throw in, and some fruit, and just arrive with that bowl. That sacredness of the earth and all the people who touched it to let it be in that bowl. And there it is in that first early waking moments before the green tea has had its chance to wake me up a little bit. That inner connection, that deep awareness. Beyond my kitchen table in this one bowl is the whole universe. And again, it's so simple. It's right there. It's relaxed. is that little bit of intention of awareness, and then relaxing into it, connecting. It's not on my cushion, right at the kitchen table. But it is just as special and precious as what we do here, right? And really, that's one of the big invitations that I like to make sure people hear, which is it's right there in so many moments of the day if you're alert to it, or you just give it a little bit of nudge of intention. Just a nudge. So I'm going to ring the bell to do a formal practice, right? Yeah. Darn words, darn lawyers, right? So I'll ring the bell and I'll invite you to arrive. My invitation to you is not only to arrive, but find out if you've been anywhere else in the last few minutes, right? I find it fascinating. I love it. I love listening to other people lead. So, Kelly was leading, for those of you who were here last week, Kelly was leading, and, she does, as I always do, invitation to arrive. And as she was leading last week, I was like, isn't it so funny? I watch what happens to my body the minute someone gives me that express permission to arrive. So see what happens for you. Really pay attention to that. What happens when I ring that bell and invite you to arrive? What is happening in your body or with your intention? Pay really close attention to it in a very playful, non-judgment way. Please don't bring any judgment to it. And see what happens. Somewhere here I have my bell. Here we go. Invitation to arrive on your seat. So for anyone who might be new on this practice time, that invitation is to really arrive, letting the weight, I think, drop into your seat, into your cushion, into your chair. Invitation to take a couple of deep breaths. So I love Lama's very simple instructions of just sitting, just breathing, and just being. And if you're new to this at all, you can use that just sitting instruction as really arriving in your body. Feeling that connection to the seat, to the ground, to the earth elements. So when I hear that take your seat or that invitation to arrive, for me, that is that embodiment piece. Coming from here, fully present. I know if my toes are cold or stuck in shoes that are too tight. And that sitting, just sitting instruction, I feel any kind of little tension that I'm holding in the body begin to soften. People always think I don't move. I actually move a lot. You just don't see it. And there's that just breathing. Boy, what a helpmate the breath is in any kind of practice. When the mind is particularly busy, I get to watch the breath for a moment or two in the lower belly, in the hara. Take those couple of belly breaths. And there's the just be. Mhm. So, what I love about using kind of the just sitting instruction and the just breathing instruction is it kind of can, in many ways, be kind of that foundational calming, centering, arriving, sort of preparatory work, and just being. Eyes open, mind and heart open. Like the pores of the skin open. And what I like is just giving, either through the sitting or the breathing, giving ourselves a little bit of attention and then relaxing. Into just being. So I like the little bit of instruction that Kelly Amadei gave last week, where she said, if you find some boundary to your awareness, go lean into it. Dance at its edges. Look over the side of the boundary. Give a nice little out breath. See where that boundary is. Invitation. Check in with the whole, the body. Wiggle the toes. Roll the shoulders. Oh, everything cracked. I wonder if you could hear that. Yeah, because we don't want to work too hard. Yeah, this can be really joyful. Ooh. I really hope you're not working. Eyes open. Mouth open. Oh, relax the jaw. Oh, it will thank you. Heart, mind open. Open to the earth element underneath you. Sometimes it can be really nice to turn that awareness really inward. So feel free, if your eyes are open, close them. Shine that light of awareness inward. Particularly into the heart center. It's amazing how sometimes we can find boundaries there, edges. I can lean into those too. Go check them out. So when I like to shine that light of awareness into the heart area, I start at the front of the chest and work my way back to the spine. Invitation to stay relaxed, to not work too hard. Oh, and heaven forbid, don't be critical. Just as it is, whatever is. So I'm going to ring the bell once. Watch what happens in your own body and your own mental states. Did you stop working so hard? Did you relax a little more? So stay right there. Don't work. Smile. Nothing to do. I rang the bell. Permission to do nothing. All right. So we'll take the last few minutes here. First, take a moment. We'll bow to each other, thanking each other and all beings in the universe and the earth itself. Gratitude for this time together, sort of giving away the merits of our practice. You know, bowing for me is just a wonderful way to say thank you, to not hold on. I bow to the chickens sometimes. I have 13 laying hens. The trees, all my Buddha bling. Sometimes to my work colleagues. Thank you. Very little. Yeah. So I want to take the last 10 minutes and if we're all in a room, I love to actually hear other people's experiences, but it doesn't work well in this format. So we'll just have to wait until we come together and then I'll snag some of you when we're on retreat, not in silence, and catch up. But calling this another one of my public service announcements. So any of you who were with me in November, when I showed up, or October, whatever it was, you know, I talked about involvement in local government and making sure we take this practice that we have and find our skillful and healthy ways to connect with all beings in the world. So in addition to kind of my lawyer titles, I work in local government. And this is, again, another invitation to take what is in your heart. And if it is healthy for you to do so, look for those opportunities to engage in small ways. Maybe it's big ways. I have found, after over 20 years in local government, it's your schools, your fire, your police, your homeless, your clean water, your local development, whether there's housing available. So much of the work gets done by local boards who are made up of volunteers. And when you can bring this type of practice into a place where you're intersecting to shape policy, to raise questions, it is a great gift. And in the teaching here, here's the tricky part. And Lama Roger teaches on this beautifully, this service piece. And it comes in so many forms. So another Mary Oliver poem. And I'm going to tell you the title of it afterwards for reasons which we'll discuss, or I'll share. Here is a story to break your heart. Are you willing? This winter, the loons came to our harbor and died, one by one, of nothing we could see. A friend told me of one on the shore that lifted its head and opened the elegant beak and cried out in the long, sweet savoring of its life, which, if you have heard it, you know is a sacred thing, and for which, if you have not heard it, you had better hurry to where they still sing. And believe me, tell no one just where that is. The next morning, this loon, speckled and iridescent, and with a plan to fly home to some hidden lake, was dead on the shore. I tell you this to break your heart, by which I mean only that it break open and never close again to the rest of the world. And the title of this poem is Lead. And someone who's grown up here in New England and has seen the loons on the lake, I'm probably rather partial to loon poems. And what that poem for me does is two things. It's that reminder to the sacredness of all life and the impact we humans have on it. So the title is Lead because lead in water through lead sinkers, which fishermen often historically have used, they're not very compatible. And this can break your heart and bring in what I call that very energetic desire to participate, and that's good. It is also dangerous, which is why I kind of use this one. And this is where the practice, like we do now, is so important. Because while we open to the loom and all the earth elements that we've somewhat challenged, we have to be open to the people who sometimes hold different views than we do. You have to break open your heart again and again. And it is hard to be in that place sometimes, but this practice that we do is so useful for that intersection with community involvement, because you don't close down. You see the suffering. You see the bigger picture. You cut through, right? We're cutting through. We're seeing through in ways that are incredibly precious. And we know not to hold on, right? You do your best and then you let go. Yeah. Because you can't fix it all. So this practice we do really gives you a tool set to engage, if it's healthy to do so. Sometimes we come with trauma and it's not healthy to do so. But there's a way to be there, which is really rich. And so if your next door neighbor or someone comes knocking on your door and says, hey, we have an opening in the Conservation Commission, or we need you to show up at a public meeting to talk about zoning or our master plan. What do we want our community to look like? Or it's time to vote or participate in town meeting. Sit with those opportunities and look at them carefully, because what you do here is really enriching. And it really can be a gift. And so really that's why I'm taking this opportunity as someone who sits in local government. It's easy to get caught up in the politics of an issue, or, well, I need to vote, and that's good. I want people to vote. But there are layers of how we interact with each other, and there are lots of opportunities. And so just keep on a lookout for those opportunities that might be right for you. And yeah, you just need to keep your heart open. That's the tricky part when people hold different views. Yeah. Keep the heart open. And I'm one of those people who likes to end on time too, like our dear Admiral. So thank you for letting me be in this space with you this morning. It's really lovely. So it's a great start to my day. Take care of you.
Thanks so much, guys. We'll end it here. Thank you, Suzanne. I'm sorry for getting your name wrong earlier. Hope you have a great week and see you guys next time.